knows how you come across somebody once in a while you shouldn't have messed with? That's me.
I am not an African American.
You're Oreo cookie, white in the inside and black on the outside.
I don't have an afro, I have an Amerifro.
Talking that idiotic stuff you talk about, I would slap you.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Black as the ace of spades, but 100% American.
Heard around the world by everybody and their mama. The Jesse Lee Peterson Radio Show.
Uniting the races with truth instead of dividing them with lies. We're also rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. Welcome to the show. I am Jesse Lee Peterson. Welcome to the third hour already. Right now I have with me JerriAnne Boggis. She is the director of Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail. And I wanted to talk to her about a resolution to free New Hampshire's slaves. Very interesting thing happening there. JerriAnne, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. I want you to tell us first about your organization, the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail. What is that about?
Well, the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail is an organization that's been around. We're in our 12th year, and we are highlighting and raising awareness for New Hampshire's Black history, the stories and people that were part of the fabric, part of the forgotten fabric of New Hampshire's history and culture.
And what's the purpose of doing that?
The purpose for raising the history, I think, is really to tell America's story and not so much segregate Black history from America's history. So often we think of New Hampshire, New England, and it's always in quotes, New Hampshire, the whitest state in the Union, which really belies a history of Blackness, a Black story. And I think for people who live there now, including myself, knowing this history creates a sense of belonging, and it wipes away the myth of, America's story, the big white dominant story. It really, by knowing the past history of our state, we can say, hey, we are here, we were here from the beginning, not just as slaves, not just this fragment of people passing through to Canada, but were integral in the creation of the state, integral in the culture and history that we tell of the state.
Do you want it to become American history and not Black history?
That's one of the things that I struggle with. Yes, I would love it to be American history and not a segregated history.
Right. Do you do you participate in February, so-called Black History Month?
I do, because we don't have another outlet. If we don't have that forum to speak where the majority culture is looking for it, what do we have? We're working all the time to integrate our story into the full picture of what America is.
Why not just fight to work at getting it in the history books? And
we
just
do that too.
Instead of having a Black History Month, would you support a White History Month?
I think we have White History Month.
When is White History Month?
All year long.
How is that?
The stories that are in school. That's what's in our storybooks, what in our history class.
But that's not White History Month. That's American history.
It's but unfortunately, for what our culture has become and what America is, that's the story that's told. It's told, the stories we tell and retell over and over again that is embedded in our school children, embedded in our culture, is the dominant white story.
But no, I don't. It's not being taught though as white history. It's being taught as American history.
Yeah, but it is, because we don't include the other stories. So therefore, our kids come up and think that only this white story is the American story. When you ask somebody, well, who, you don't go around asking white people if you're American, but when you see somebody else somewhere, you have to define, well, where are you from? What's your origin? We don't really question and go after the majority culture on what your heritage is. That's just assume.
Amazing.
It's taken as the dominant culture, American culture. If you say you're American, the first picture that comes to your mind is that of a white person. I don't think for an African American, a black person, Caribbean, or even Native Americans, you don't consider them American.
Oh.
Even though Native Americans are the original natives.
You talking about the Indians?
Yes.
They are the original what?
Natives of America.
But they were not the founders of the United States of America, were they?
They didn't have to be founded. They were here.
I know, but it wasn't the United States. It was just
it was
just
America.
dry land with a bunch of folks sitting back smoking pot.
Oh, what an image.
But that's true. They were smoking
peace. I would support.
They called it peace pipe or something, but they couldn't get up and do anything because they were high all the time. But I want to talk to you about this right now, what's happening there in your town, New Hampshire. Historian Valerie Kernanham of the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail came across the slave petition in the state archive nearly 30 years ago. Tell us about that and what's going on with that.
Well, right now, how do I do this now? The 1779 petition that she found really, where these 20 African or African-American enslaved men from Portsmouth were writing for requesting their freedom, which they submitted to the state legislature, then the assembly, was that petition was slated. There was no action done on it. And the reason it's up, it came up today and is back in our news now, could be that we're, celebrating 2013, the anniversary of the Emancipation Declaration. And most prominently or most urgently for us right now is that we are building a memorial to for the African burial ground, which is a burial ground that was uncovered when the city was redoing their pipes, and 12 bodies were uncovered during that city dig. And the bones were then tested and proven to be of African heritage.
And so now your organization want the legislators to vote on freeing these people who are already dead?
I think, yes. The idea actually came from a concerned and active citizen, at Mr. Tom Watson. He's a local attorney, and he is a trustee of a trust fund that we, I think, applied to for funding for the memorial, for the burial ground. And he came to the mayor's Blue Ribbon Committee with the idea that we should request the New Hampshire State Legislature to act on that 1779 petition that was tabled. That was, no action was taken on.
And this is to free a group of people who are now dead.
Yes.
And you don't think that they are already free?
I think, again...
Hold that thought. Let me take a quick break. Hold on,
sure.
JerriAnne, I'll let you respond when I come back. My guest is JerriAnne Boggis, and she is with the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail organization out of New Hampshire. 20 slaves petitioned New Hampshire 2 centuries ago seeking freedom. Lawmakers decided the time wasn't right and delayed action. Now, 233 years later, legislators in one of the nation's whitest states have decided the time is right to consider the request. 233 years later. And JerriAnne, let me ask, are you in support of the legislators there voting to free these people?
Absolutely. I think what it does, I mean, it really is a symbolic vote, so I can't see where anybody would object to doing it now. And, what it does do is raise awareness for a history that is part of New Hampshire's story.
Oh, I see.
Not all of it, but it is part of New Hampshire's story.
And what good would that do for black people?
First of all, the petition itself, I think, is written in the time of the Revolution, a time when the thought was that African Americans be enslaved were not smart people. They couldn't couldn't think for themselves, couldn't write, couldn't articulate sophisticated language. They actually were just shadow people in the background of their masters. The whole notion, the way the petition was written, what it says is it's a highly intellectual document that belies the stereotype of what it meant to be an enslaved person.
So it would show
in America's country.
It would show white people that black people were smart even when they were enslaved?
Even when they thought they were nothing.
Oh. How would that help black families? How would that stop or encourage black people to get off welfare? How would that cause black people to turn back to God and live an upright life and stop hating whitey and start loving people and judging people based on character? Will the signing of this petition help those situations or change those situations in any form at all?
I am not sure just what your question leads to, because I think just the question and the phrasing of what you said falls into the stereotypes of what we think or who we think black people are. Black people are not a simple, painted with one brush, welfare participants.
Not all, but most are.
Group. I could not say that.
You can say most.
Say that. I would not say most black people are ungodly. If you look at the people who go into church on Sundays, that would belie that statement.
But that's not true. They go to church, but they don't know God. They go to church and hoop and holler and dance, and then they go right back to their mess.
Is that any different than any group that goes to church? I'm not sure. I think that is painting too many people with one brush, and it's inaccurate.
But let me say this notion, I think it's kind of cute to get the people to sign the petition to free the dead. But my thing is, I think normal Americans are ready for black people, and not all blacks are like this, but most. They're ready for you guys to kind of move on and get away from the slave stuff. It's time to start living and giving back to your country and standing up and being real Americans and uniting with men and women of character. I think that most people just fed up with this stuff now. We gave you guys a black president. You got a black woman in there acting like a ghetto girl. We've given you everything you wanted. It's time to move away from the slave thing. Don't you think?
Really and truly, your language and those stereotypes are really disturbing. I think it paints back into pictures that are just not accurate and not true.
What have I said that's not true?
I don't know when in a period there wasn't a time that black gave back to their country. They fought in every single war for this country, for their rights, for the rights of blacks and whites for freedom. So I don't know where this notion of not giving back to a country and not being part of a country and part of a culture, a very prominent part of a culture.
But that's not recognized because what's out there more so is your black leaders and your black preachers and the black children out there, breaking into supermarkets and stores and carrying on, and the black leaders are constantly blaming white people and they're begging, they're calling themselves African Americans. So those blacks who did die for the country, it's not recognized because it's overshadowed with all this other mess that's going on from the black community.
Again, taking a paintbrush to paint a whole community one color is, especially black, all the negative issues, is not accurate. Black leaders have stepped up and continue to step up in support of a prominent and rich black culture. The civil rights movement is a strong indication of that.
The civil rights movement is a joke.
Why is that a joke?
Because the people who are supposed to have headed up this so-called civil rights movement are very selfish, godless people who are using blacks for their own personal gain. They keep blacks angry. They have black people who were born in this country calling themselves African American. How dumb is that? I mean, it's just too much. It needs to go away. You know what I'm saying? It's time for black people to become free thinkers, individuals, and just working and raising their families and treating people accordingly.
Unfortunately, I think I'm speaking to somebody who hasn't done any research on black history.
What do you mean?
For black thinkers, we have, black history. And, I mean, I'm not sure what this interview is about today, but there are
I think it's okay if you guys, I'm okay with you guys getting this thing passed where, it's a kind of symbolic thing, free the slave, even though they've been dead 233 years, free the slave. But I just think it's time to get away from the black thing. I think it's time to be Americans. You know what I mean?
It definitely is time to be American, and we black people are American. They're a valid and invaluable part of American culture.
So do you think that
but part of the story is also telling the true story of American history, not just a story that the myth that we want to perpetuate over and over again, and not just living through the stereotypes that still exist today.
Amazing.
Part of the story is
JerriAnne, do you have a website you'd like to give out?
The website for the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail is pbhtrail.com.
All right. Thank you so much, JerriAnne, for being with me. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right now.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Back in a moment.
Live here. I want to tell you.